Yes, indeed, folks. Listen to Blue Please here on CynicalBrit.com with myself, Total Biscuit. Wow, okay, yeah. So, apparently having an audio cable on a piece of metal, it doesn't sound good. No, let's not do that. Okay. I suppose I'm going to have to talk about other things, aren't I? Tends to be what happens. First things first, so we filled the tiny chat before the show even started, by the way. Apparently it's got a 400 user limit. There is a IRC room. Now, I was thinking that I should probably go and change Tiny Chat around because Tiny Chat can't really accommodate us anymore. Now, there is a system on VTWProductions.com which basically has a built-in IRC and then cam hosting via the website. So, I'll probably switch over to that in the next couple of weeks. Now, if you want to join the IRC channel, it's on QuakeNet, and it is #CynicalBrit. That is #CynicalBrit. Now, that would be a good place for you to hang out, because Tiny Chat is full, and most likely we're going to make a move so that you can all go in the IRC channel in the future, and you can still have cams, so it'll be like the best of both worlds. Because IRC can accommodate a lot more. Yeah. What else do we have coming up for in the show? Well, let's have a think. I can think of a few things. So I want to talk about basically the completeness of the beta as it is right now. In order to do that, I'm going to actually log into the beta. And I'm going to try and point out exactly what's missing right now. And I'll talk about whether or not this is actually going to hit the November release. We'll see. So I'm going to log into that right now in the meantime. So, latest patch had a bunch of interesting changes. For instance, you can now go all the way up to level 85. And some people have already managed it. How did they manage it? Well, there was a bug whereby you were able to level up off of these mobs, which are supposed to be killed in daily quests, with a big rolling ball of fire. You were able to kill those and get tons of experience. And they respawn all the time. So, some guy just ground those for like 6 hours and ended up at level 85. Pretty pro. Now, what else was there? Well, both Oldham and Twilight Highlands are now open, but they are not entirely finished yet. There are a few issues with that. I mean, Twilight Highlands particularly just sort of stops, but you've got enough to get to level 85 there. All the 5-man dungeons, with the exception of the heroics. That means no SFK and no DM yet. They're open as well. So that's something that is definitely worth having a look at. I'm just logging in right now just to have a look. It's pretty pro. Excellent stuff. By the way, this is not beta streaming. There, you can probably hear the roars in the background. It's like, I am at the Maelstrom! It's very nice! There's a bit of rain! Yeah, I think we can probably turn that off. Oh, man. But the question is, what isn't there? And just how complete is the game right now? So, all the major areas seem to be open. I can tell you what isn't finished. Thrall's model. PH model task 29231. That's Thrall right there. So, yeah. Thrall ain't finished yet. All of the major cities seem to have been sort of gotten to their final state. A lot of them haven't changed, and that is deliberate. The big major changes are to Orgrimmar and Stormwind. Old Ironforge, I believe, is accessible. As to how you get there, I am not entirely sure. Raid dungeons, not available yet. There's no way to test them. In regards to the 5-man heroics and things like that, well, the 5-mans are open, so I have to assume that the heroics will be ready for launch as well. I mean, bear in mind that before last week, they only had 3 dungeons available, and the 2 largest and most significant questing zones in Cataclysm weren't even officially open yet. They are now. And that's a huge deal, because that's a lot of content there. And what it also demonstrates is that the build that we have on beta right now is way behind what they actually have. I mean, they've got something far in advance. Now, they'll always have something in advance. To whether or not it'll be far in advance, well, that's a different matter entirely. Now, we'll have a look at some of the other stuff. So, what else is finished? Well, major changes. We'll look at all of the major stuff. So, first one. We're going to have a look at talents. So, talents are not done at all. I mean, they are all over the place right now. There's a lot of changes that still need to be made to talents. In fact, I can't even view my talent tree right now, so that's a little bad. You might want to fix that. I think the talent balancing is what's going to take a lot of time, honestly. It's going to be done over the course of several months. It's got to be done correctly and done so in such a manner that people actually want to play. I mean, if you have bad talents, then people don't want to play their spec, and that kind of sucks. Other major stuff, guild stuff. Now, the guild leveling is, as far as I can tell, finally working. Our Guild Testers of Cataclysm is a level 5 guild, almost at level 6. We'll get Fast Track rank 2, which will be good. We've got cash flow and all that other stuff. What else do we have? We've got... The guild perk system, the reward system is not in there yet. There's actually a guild vendor that I noticed in... It's to the side of the big thing, which is where Hellscream is hanging around. You can actually buy a Horde Mount Scorpion. And it doesn't do anything. It costs me 2 silver. The funny thing is, I can... Yes, there we go. I can actually have it in my inventory, but I can't do anything with it. So, that's not in there yet. But as far as I can tell, what's going to be happening is that once you get Exalted, you'll be able to buy this special Horde Guild Mount. And you may also be able to have some kind of tabard and finery with your guild logo on it, which will be pretty pro. The Alliance are apparently getting a giant armored lion. That's why we have a scorpion. I can't say I'm entirely sure, but hey, there you go. I suppose it kind of makes sense. The logo looks a little bit like a scorpion. So the guild stuff is getting there. Almost. Almost getting there. What else do we have? Well, so the leveling content's solid. The raiding content we don't know about yet. The PvP content, well, one of them is open and one of them isn't. You can get in... Actually, can you? Let's try it. Is Battle for Gilneas available? No, it's not. Twin Peaks is up. Tol Barad is up. It's actually in progress right now. Battle for Gilneas is not up. But the thing is, Battlegrounds don't take all that long. And I'd imagine the map is probably still there anyway. So that's not really too big a deal. So most of the PvP content is there as well. Okay. What about gear? Well, we don't know yet. Because obviously we don't have access to most of that gear. The 5-man dungeon set, I imagine, will either come from Heroics or it will come from the... Oh, what the hell is it called? Yeah, the Brim Baton and stuff at level 85, as opposed to the stuff at level 83. So we don't know if that's in there yet. Well, we know that the models exist. We don't know if it's statted. I think gear is... It's mostly a spreadsheet operation. If they've got an awful lot of stuff in there that is used for models and things like that, if they've already got sets sorted out, then honestly, they don't really have to worry too much about whether or not the gear's going to be ready on time. You just got to get an eye with a spreadsheet and say, okay, blah, 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 there we go, let's have more, and done. Okay, stats, spreadsheet, wonderful, sorted out. So actually, by now, in this build, it's looking way more likely that it's going to be ready for, say, November. It's not going to be out for October. It's not going to happen. I mean, look at it, we're in September right now. It's not going to be out for October. It's just not going to happen. But I would call November. November would still be my prediction right now. There are no loot items available currently in the new 5-mans, but the lists do exist, and I'd imagine they'll be put in at some point in the not-too-distant future. So, completion-wise, it's looking good. But what about the actual quality of the content? A lot of people, an awful lot of people have asked, well, is it any good? It's very difficult to actually say, and say with certainty, whether or not content is, quote, good or not. So, I mean, you're looking at a beta test, things are going to change, and you've also got to take it in the context that it's given. This is the reason that I don't, say, go to the stockades with a level 80 character. I went to Strata once, and you know what? I actually was disappointed that I did. It would have been nice to just go through there. Now, is it any good level appropriate? Yeah, actually some of it really is. We're looking at stuff like, say, the Ashara questing content. That's really good. The Darkshore stuff, after a while, is really good. I haven't been in any of the dungeons at that level, but bear in mind, it's barely changed. So, you don't really need to worry about that. I mean, I went back into RFC. Is Ragefire Chasm any good? Was it ever? So, you know, it's difficult to say. People say that good is subjective, No, it's really not. I mean, we're not talking about I like Slipknot, which I certainly do not, because they're objectively bad. But, from a musical standpoint, Slipknot are objectively bad. What are the objective standards you have to apply to say, oi, is this any good? Well, let's have a think. So, we can first apply the objective standard of variety. And we're talking about questing content right here. Is there sufficient variety to ensure that you are not repeating the same task over and over and over again? Well, yeah, mostly, with a few exceptions. I would like to point out things like the Mountain Foot Ingots. Ugh! They can go to hell. There are some quests that are just horrible. The stuff in Darkshore was really irritating. The Shaman stuff, garbage. However, objectively speaking, compared to Wrath of the Lich King, is it better? Objectively, there is more variety than Wrath of the Lich King. Wrath of the Lich King had more variety than TBC in terms of the questing content. That's fine. That's an objective standard. You can safely say there, it is better. It is good. What else? Dungeon content. Is it better? Some of it is. Some of it's not. The Stone Core is garbage right now. The trash is pretty good, but the actual dungeon, nah. The bosses are awful. However, stuff like Blackrock Caverns, stuff like the Throne of Tides, they are good. Are they better than Wrath? That is a more difficult call to make. What standards must you apply to try and objectively say this is better than Wrath? Because personal preference is going to come in. Unquestionably, personal preference is an issue when it comes to dungeons. Some people like the Oculus. Well, some people, I assume they must have been lobotomized. I'm not going to judge. It's not your fault. You didn't cut a piece of your brain out. The piece that determines what's good and what's bad. The piece that, say, would determine that Slipknot is a bad band. That was cut out at birth, perhaps. And therefore you like bad instances like Oculus. However, you can have a look at certain things. Boss mechanics. Do you have sufficient variety in boss mechanics? Do you have sufficient difficulty level within the dungeon? As in, is it challenging? Do you require things like crowd control? Do you require things like focused fire, proper tanking, kiting even? Is that objectively good? It's objectively good in terms of providing a challenge. Some people don't like challenge, so say, oh, well, that's not good at all. Well, I think challenge is required for a good game. I think raid content and dungeon content requires challenge in order to be objectively good. It's pointless. Absolutely and utterly pointless to do if it doesn't challenge you, if it doesn't keep you awake. Why would you want to do brain-dead content, I might ask? It's a good question, is it not? I cannot imagine why you want to do that. Some people do, but hey. But that stuff is in there. You cannot AoE everything. The trash is challenging, it requires CC. The bosses are challenging, they require CC. There are some doozies, no doubt about that, but when is anything ever perfect? Dungeon-wise, thus far, bear in mind there is a lot more to have a look at. It's an upgrade from Wrath. Heroics-wise, I don't know. Raid content, I don't know. But the stuff that we've seen, yeah. Cataclysm is a good expansion. It is better than Wrath. It is significantly better than Wrath. Some people might even be willing to argue that it is better than TBC. And actually, yeah, it is. Because the questing areas are so much more engaging. Way more engaging. That's so very important, because questing generally sucks so very bad. Something had to be done. And just little things. Think about it. Voice-acted dialogue. Quite a lot of voice-acted dialogue. That's good. Cutscenes. That's good. Zone introductions. That's good. Hey, let me tell you about this. Spoilers, by the way. I'll be putting a movie out of this at some point, but let me just put this out for you right now. If you don't want to hear a spoiler, tune out for the next minute. When you go into Oldham, when you follow the breadcrumbs quest in there is a cutscene. You are captured and thrown into a cage. Just by going into the area and following the breadcrumbs quest. That's awesome! That never happened before. That's kick-ass! You remember Sholazar Basin? One of the best, and I do mean the best. Wasn't there a way into that actually involved you crash landing in the middle of nowhere with a parachute? It's awesome. Everything does this. Everything. As far as I can tell, every single dungeon and every single area has some kind of introduction to it. So like Vashia, you actually get on a boat and there's a voice-acted cutscene. It's not even a cutscene, you can move around, so it's all in there. And something happens that causes you to go under there. So yeah. It's great. That is objectively better. That is objectively better storytelling. Honestly, Cataclysm, objectively better than every other expansion. That's just the truth, man. Over the course of this many months in the beta, that is just the damn truth. They worked their asses off. You gotta give them credit for that. There are loads of different things that have to be changed, loads of different things that have to be altered, but you'd have to be an idiot to think that it's not a good expansion. It's as simple as that. My name is Total Biscuit, and you're listening to Blue Please, here on CynicalBrit.com. I'll be right back after this. Enjoy.